Hey everyone, it's Kristen. Today we're going to be talking about Fantastic Four 293. And like I said in the last video, She-Hulk, has been a member of the Fantastic Four while the Thing was out. And I just think this is a very dramatic cover. And of course, that's why part of why I wanted to talk about it. And I said in my last video, the air conditioning is off because it interferes with the video, so I'm sorry if I'm like a little, discombobulated because it's hot. I mean, it shouldn't be this hot, but it's September, but of course it's Texas, and it's, it's like the end of September, but it's Texas, so, it is what it is. Okay, so first page, speaking of dramatic, I don't even have to read that because you can see it. Central City is where Reed used to live before he became, Mr. Fantastic. And of course, she's talking to Wyatt Wingfoot, who we talked about in the last video. They're still together. And we see, we see the West Coast Avengers, Iron Man, Tigra, Wonder Man, and She-Hulk. She's not part of the West Coast Avengers, but anyway, so the West Coast Avengers were started by Hawkeye, and it was just basically a mini-series, and then it ran for like 102 episodes. I meant issues. Sorry. Like I said, it's hot. I apologize. I'll be glad when it dips in below the 80s. That'd be awesome. Anyway, okay, so I just wanted to touch on the West Coast Avengers really quick. Created by Hawkeye, he wanted to expand the Avengers' influence. So West Coast Avengers, so basically, California. Which I think it's cool because almost every superhero group is in New York, and everything happens in New York. And of course, it's understandable. It's like the most metropolitan, cosmopolitan city in America. It's almost like the capital, of America, like in terms of when people think of the most major city in America, they think, New York City. So, I mean, understandable. But at the same time, though, it's nice to see, superhero-ing take place in other places. So at this point, Iron Man has not revealed that he's Iron Man. He actually, this is in 1985, I believe. 85 or 86. He doesn't actually reveal he's Iron Man until 2002, which, of course, by the movies, you might be confused because, of course, at the end of the first movie, he's like, I am Iron Man. But it wasn't until, like I said, 2002 when he actually revealed he was Iron Man. Because before, he was just there was Iron Man, the superhero, and then there was Tony Stark, the, weapons designer, manufacturer. So, and Tigra, she is actually a cat person. That's the best way I can put it. She has, of course, like enhanced abilities, senses, agility, strength, proportional, like to a cat. And she became a cat person because the doctor that kind of experimented on her with her consent was a cat person, part of that race. And she can actually has like an amulet, a talisman that she uses to change like her appearance into human, but she really likes being who she is, so she stays in her cat form, like basically like She-Hulk. Like She-Hulk pretty much is always She-Hulk. She doesn't change into Jennifer, rarely ever, just because that's who she is, and that's who she wants to be, and that's who she feels like she genuinely is. So, and she Tigra always wears just this black bikini as her uniform because, as she put it before, clothes just feel like, well, she has fur, so clothes make her feel hot. Like she feels like a full uniform, leotard, whatever, would make her like uncomfortably hot and overheat. So I get that. It's just funny that her uniform is just basically a black bikini. It makes me think of like in some games where the armor for men is like full armor and the armor for women is like a chainmail bikini kind of thing. Anyway, so basically, She-Hulk is at this point still associated with the Fantastic Four because Thing is basically now missing. Like he's kind of disappeared. So they are investigating this black dome that has appeared over Central City. They don't know what it is. They don't know, it just all of a sudden appeared, and they're not sure what's going on. And, it's interesting because in, here, Wyatt calls her Jennifer. And other times he calls her She-Hulk. So I just find that interesting that he switches between the two. Even though, of course she is Jennifer, but she's in her She-Hulk like persona. So, okay, so now what we talked about in the last issue of Fantastic Four 278 relates to this right here. That's part of the reason why I wanted to talk about this. There's Kristoff, the little kid that was brainwashed into thinking he's Dr. Doom. He's saying, I am Dr. Doom. And Reed has done all kinds of tests, all kinds of scans, like everything he could possibly think of to do. And all of his scans say that he's Dr. Doom. Like there's no trace of Kristoff anywhere. Like for all intents and purposes, he is Dr. Doom. Like Kristoff is gone. There's nothing left of him. So, and Reed Richards is like, I don't know how to change him back. There's no trace of him, so I have no way to change him back. And why I wanted to talk about this was because basically what happens with Kristoff is he spends the rest of his life thinking he is Dr. Doom, and so basically fighting with Dr. Doom for control of Latveria. Like they go back and forth a lot fighting for control. The Doombots, they think that he is master, so they're not exactly sure like who to follow usually. And there was a time when they actually followed Kristoff because they didn't believe that the real Dr. Doom was Dr. Doom because he said something that caused them to feel like he doubted himself, which of course the real Dr. Doom would never do that because like I said, we've talked about that. He's very full of himself. So they followed Kristoff instead because they're like, well, the real Dr. Doom would never doubt himself, would never say such a thing. So Dr. Doom had to flee his own country from his own robots because they didn't believe him, which I just thought that was kind of funny. So basically, like I said, he spends the rest of his time like basically thinking he's Dr. Doom and fighting control of him. So basically, the Fantastic Four agree to go investigate this, and Sue is, of course, as always, worried about Franklin. And Reed's like, well, you could have stayed behind. I would have understood. And she's like, no, the times of me staying on the sidelines are over. This is the life that I chose. I chose to be with you. I chose to be part of this team. We're not, I can't just sit on the sidelines anymore. So for a while, he didn't have his powers, and now they're returning. So they're also worried about that. So basically, they use this, plane to get across the to get across the U.S. in like an hour, which, you know, because he's Reed Richards, he can figure that out. Okay, so here's Iron Man, and he has developed a device to penetrate the portal so that he can enter. So he enters and almost immediately comes out. And, you know, Tigra is like, what the heck? And you can see he's all, like, his armor's all beat up, and he's, like, disoriented. And he's like, I need powers. My power's gone. Food concentrates, exhausted, barely managed to escape alive. Why didn't anyone come after me? And Tiger's like, what do you mean? You were in there like maybe half a second, maybe a second. And, you know, Iron Man's like, are you mad? I was in there for a month. And they're like, what's going on? I don't understand. And it's interesting because when the West Coast Avengers like first started, kind of, there was a time when actually James Rhodes, War Machine, was actually Iron Man, but nobody knew that. Like, you know, his teammates didn't really know that. So She-Hulk offers to, you know, open up his armor so they can get him out because he seems to be like in a bad way. And Tigra is like, no, you can't do that. And Wonder Man is like, yeah, no, you can't do that because you're not a member of the Avengers, so you're not privileged to the information of who Iron Man is, so no. So Wonder Man's like, I will take him to our headquarters, you know, where he can be taken care of. I need you guys to stay here, you know, just wait for us. We'll tell the others, and, you know, we'll handle it. Well, what he says is, you gals stay on guard here and don't get into any trouble while I'm gone. And She-Hulk's like, who does he think we are, Betty and Veronica? Which, it's funny that they mentioned Archie, referenced Archie comics, because I used to love those comics growing up. I mean, I think, like, a lot of people did, and they did the whole show Riverdale, which, that's, like, I get it. They had to make it to where people would actually, I guess, more people would actually want to watch it, so they made it, like, super dark, which I didn't really like it. I stopped watching after, you know, probably the first or second season. I just was like, no. Why did they have to go and make everything dark now? Like, they did that to Nancy Drew. They did that to, like, the Winx Club. You know, don't judge me. I used to watch that, you know, with my nieces. And it was a cute show, and now Netflix, I mean, yeah, I get it. It's, you know, it's a good show, but they made it to where it's dark. Not everything has to be dark. Anyway, sorry, went off on a tangent. Didn't mean to. Anyway, so Tiger's like, give him a break. He's been in, like, you know, suspended animation for, like, a whole bunch of years. Okay, brief history of Wonder Man. He is kind of like a being of ionic energy. He has, like, tons of different powers. Flight, super strength, you know, energy beams, eye beams out of his hands, you know, can become basically a being of pure ionic energy. Just all kinds of powers, even though he's never been like an A-list hero, I will say, though. He was his one of the points when he was in suspended animation, Ultron actually used his brainwaves to create Vision, and we've talked about that before, like in the WandaVision, the tiny book of Wanda and Vision. So he, you know, he's always kind of been a part of that triangle because basically he had feelings for Wanda, and it's said that because he had feelings for Wanda, Vision had feelings for Wanda, and that's kind of why they came to be. But, you know, there's been questions about whether, no, Vision just kind of came into those feelings on his own, but a lot of people point back to but he was created from Wonder Man. So anyway, so he's basically been, you know, like I said, not an A-list person. Not a lot of people know him, but there's rumors that he's going to have his own series in the MCU soon, so we'll see. He actually went to Hollywood to become a movie star. We saw him in Beauty and the Beast, the series about Beast and Dazzler, because he actually was friends with Beast because they were on the Avengers together at the same time. So he was like a contact for Beast in Hollywood because Wonder Woman is a movie star and he does a lot of stunt work. Anyway, so that's like a brief history on him. And his brother's a villain. I forgot to say that. Okay, so Tigra is like, is it just me or did this thing just move? And so She-Hulk's like, I don't know. I don't know why, but she's like, let me touch it. She gets really close to it, doesn't quite touch it, but then it kind of like expands and grabs her. And she's like, oh my gosh, let go. And she's like, I don't understand. Like, I have the strength of the Hulk. There's nothing that can hold me, and yet I can't get my hand free. And then, like, her leg gets sucked in too. And Tigra tries to free her, but She-Hulk is like, no, you can't get sucked in too, because if you get sucked in too, no one will be here to tell everyone else what happened. And she actually kicks her and says, now scat, cat. Oh, Marvel. So, anyway. So, and just like a moment later, the Fantastic Four arrive. And so Tigra fills them in on what's going on. So, and, you know, mentions the whole, well, a second is like a month in there. And so reads like it must be some kind of temporal disturbance or temporal interference. And so they make a plan as to go in. And again, Reed is like, Sue, you can stay out here. You know, you don't have to come, because she's worried, of course, like if so much time passes in there, what if they spend too long in there and then they can't get out in time and they leave Franklin, you know, all alone, because basically they've spent too much time in there, so now they're dead. And she's like, no, I can't do that. You know, I have to go with you. And so they make a plan, and of course, Wyatt, having no superpowers though, wants to go with them, and because he's like, I'm worried about She-Hulk. You know, we're together, we're involved. I worry about her. And so Reed's like, all right, hold on. You know, everyone grab me, don't let go. And all of a sudden, then something happens, and you can see Tigra, more of her like features right there in her cat-like eyes. And so they go through the portal, and, you know, they're like, it's really dark in here, Johnny. Can you give us some light? And so they come across this place, and they see that this place, the buildings, have been built on top of the remnants of Central City. Like, they just built up. And because basically there's buildings everywhere, and so now they built up. And Sue recognizes the place because she used to drive that way on her way to visit Reed at his old rocket base. And so they go up because that's, you know, buildings have been built up. And Reed's like, I've never seen anything like this material. I have no idea what this is. I don't understand where we are, what's going on. And then Johnny said, and they also come across like what looks like to be a replica, like a small replica of the Baxter Building. Oh, and I wanted to point out, look at this picture of Stanley. Like, you know, the shades, of course, that he always wears, and like his shirt being basically all the way unbuttoned. He has one button done, but I just thought that was interesting. I just thought that was funny, seeing him, you know, like that. You know, Stan's soapbox, the column that he used to do every month. And then Johnny sees something else, and it's a statue of them. And that's where it ends. And okay, so basically the next two issues tell the rest of the story, which I like the beginning more because it was so like dramatic, like what is going on, what's happening. So basically what happens is this guy, Jessup, was in charge of building like a nuclear device for this company, and Roxxon, and they were like, hey, you need to hurry it up, you need to go faster. Like I said, this is the 80s, so we were still in the middle of the Cold War, which, like I said, Doctor Strange 70, that talks about the effects of nuclear weapons. So another Cold War story, which, like I said, now that I'm like revisiting these issues, I see there's a lot of Cold War themes throughout these comic books, because of course that was a very real issue that we were dealing with, and we dealt with it for so long, like from after World War II to basically like 1991 or 1998, when the wall fell. But I won't like rehash that. If you want to learn more about that, Doctor Strange 70, the video I did on that. But basically, Jessup has been charged of building this device. He says, I'm not going to hurry. We're dealing with nuclear power here that can be very dangerous. So he gets fired. He hears that the nuclear pact with Russia is off. So he's worried. So he wants to, and he sees Reed talking about, like, he wants to study force fields, like the like field dispersion, and how, something can be created around something else, kind of like how Sue makes her, her bubbles or force fields. And so Jessup gets, this brilliant idea, like, I'm going to create a device that will shield the city from nuclear fallout, because he's afraid that that's going to happen, that that's a really real thing. So he creates the device. Like, he apparently is a colleague of Reed's back in the day, and he's a genius. So he creates the device, but he messes up in that he accidentally makes it to where time goes by much faster on the inside than it does the outside, because he wanted to protect people and actually make time go slower so that they could be ready for when the Earth, you could inhabit it again. Because, of course, after a nuclear fallout, it takes years and years and years and years and years and years for all the radiation to disappear. I mean, Chernobyl, they're still having, there's still pockets of radiation, and you still have to be really careful, and that will still exist. Like, there's 1,000, I think I said in my other video, 1,000-mile radius where you're not allowed to enter unless you're like a government official or a scientist. Anyway, I said all that in my other video, so I won't talk about that. And so basically, he creates this, this force field, this dome that encases Central City. He does it backwards, where time speeds up instead of slows down. So he puts himself and all the citizens in suspended animation so that they can, live until the world's ready to be, lived in again. And they decide to make the Fantastic Four their gods, because he got the idea from Reed Richards, the Fantastic Four. And so they confront him, and he doesn't think that they're the real Fantastic Four until, like, this person with powers shows them that, yes, they are the real thing. So he apologized, and basically he's been in suspended animation for so long. It's been thousands of years, and he basically exists within suspended animation, but his mind is, like, still active, so he can help the citizens of this world. I mean, granted, it's a lot more, it's pretty complicated, because, like, if it's thousands of years, how can there actually even be all these people still? And there's still people in suspended animation, so it doesn't make sense. Anyway, so he realizes he was wrong, because they convinced him there's been no nuclear war, no fallout. So they free Hulk from suspended animation, because as soon as She-Hulk came through, they put her in suspended animation. So they free her. Reed reverses everything, and he actually sends I don't know how he managed to do this, but they don't really explain. But he sends them like 10,000 years into the future so that their technology will hopefully line up and fit in with the technology of, of the future, because it's way too far advanced for this city to exist in our timeline. And then basically Reed and Sue and everybody are fine. Like, they haven't aged at all. Like I said, even though, Johnny, Sue, Reed, Wyatt have been in there for who knows how long, and they haven't been in suspended animation, apparently they're fine. So Reed sends the city in to the future, and there's just this big, huge crater left. And like I said, it's way more complicated than that, but I basically summarized it for you because it's a lot, and there's kind of a lot of plot holes, because it's kind of hard to explain something like that. I mean, of course it's fantasy, so, but it's kind of like the whole theories of time travel that a lot of people have. There's no way of really knowing which one is true, and there's a lot of theories out there, and a lot of things about time travel don't make sense, but of course we have no idea how it actually works, so it's just one of those things that, that they present it to you, you accept it, and then you're like, okay, and then you move on. So, but I just thought that was an interesting issue because of how dramatic the cover is. I really like that, and the first page is very dramatic too, and the fact that the story of Kristoff is continued from there. I just think that, I mean, that poor little kid, he's maybe like 8, 9, 10 maybe, and he spends the rest of his life thinking he's Dr. Doom. And I mean, at one point, I think Doom like utters like a safe word that reverts him back to who he was not who he was entirely, but in a way. But he still wants basically Latveria and kind of revenge on Dr. Doom for doing that to him. So he still, he still clashes with Dr. Doom a lot. So I don't know. That was just a really interesting storyline that they chose to do, and I just wanted you guys to kind of see where it progressed. So thank you for joining me for this video and for all the other videos you've joined me for. I really, like I said, I don't really have anyone else to talk to about this kind of stuff, so it's fun to talk to you guys and like pretend that you're actually like listening to me ramble on about stuff, and that you're paying attention to what I say. I really appreciate that, and I thank you for letting me ramble on. And like I said, it feels like I'm talking to friends. So I hope you'll join me for on that note, future videos, and I will see you next time. Bye.